The Narcissist Courtship, Worship Before War. Zara couldn't believe her luck. 1 month into dating James, and her life had transformed into something from a romantic film. Lavish surprise gifts appeared at her workplace. Heartfelt messages greeted her each morning, describing how she had changed his world. He memorized her favorite authors, surprising her with obscure books she had mentioned wanting to read. Friends commented on her glow, her happiness. "I've never connected with anyone like this," James told her, intertwining his fingers with hers over dinner on their 1-month anniversary. "I feel like I've been waiting for you my entire life." When he suggested she meet his family after just 6 weeks, it felt rushed but also special. When he gave her a key to his apartment at 2 months, it seemed impulsive but romantic. When he began discussing their future children's names, she felt both overwhelmed and chosen. "He sees things in me no one else ever has," she told her concerned sister, who suggested they were moving too quickly. 3 months in, Zara noticed subtle shifts. The first criticism came couched in concern. "You know I adore you, but maybe that dress isn't the most flattering for your body type." Then observations about her friends. "I'm surprised you enjoy spending time with Sarah. Her negativity seems to affect you." The text messages decreased. The surprise gift stopped. When she mentioned this change, James looked wounded. "I feel like nothing I do is ever enough for you," he said. "I've given you everything." By 6 months, arguments had become common. Each one followed a similar pattern. James would criticize something about Zara. She would defend herself. He would grow increasingly agitated before withdrawing emotionally for days. The reconciliations were intense, reminiscent of their early passion, but briefer each time. "I sometimes feel like I'm walking on eggshells," Zara confided to her therapist. "Tell me about the beginning of your relationship again," her therapist replied. "Sometimes the beginning contains clues about where we are now." As Zara recounted the whirlwind romance, her therapist nodded slowly. "There's a term for what you're describing, love bombing. It's not courtship, it's strategy." What Zara experienced represents one of the most deceptive and damaging relationship patterns, the narcissistic courtship that begins with worship and inevitably descends into war. The initial phase, commonly called love bombing, isn't an expression of genuine affection, but the first tactical maneuver in a campaign of emotional control. Understanding this pattern is crucial because it specifically targets good people with healthy capacity for love, empathy, and benefit of doubt. The narcissistic courtship follows a calculated sequence. First comes the idealization phase. The narcissist presents themselves as your perfect match, reflecting back your hopes, dreams, and desires as if they were created specifically for you. The intensity feels spiritual, as if you found your soulmate. The excessive adoration feels both overwhelming and addictive. Next is the acceleration phase. The relationship progresses at an unnaturally rapid pace. Commitment milestones that typically take months or years, meeting family, moving in together, discussing marriage happen within weeks. This speed serves to bypass your natural discernment and boundary setting processes. Then comes the devaluation phase. Once emotional investment is secured, criticism begins. Initially subtle, it targets your sense of worth, your relationships, your perception of reality. The person who once worshipped everything about you now seems disappointed by those same qualities. Finally, there is the discard and hoover phase. Periods of emotional withdrawal or actual breakups are followed by intense campaigns to win you back, often featuring elements of the original love bombing. This creates a trauma bond that becomes increasingly difficult to break. This pattern works because it exploits fundamental spiritual and emotional needs, our desire for recognition, our yearning for deep connection, and our capacity for commitment. What feels like spiritual recognition is actually strategic mirroring designed to create attachment before revealing true intentions. Spiritually speaking, love bombing represents a counterfeit connection that mimics spiritual union while actually creating energetic drainage and bondage. It targets your light, your capacity for love and trust, and attempts to harness it for narcissistic supply. The signs that you're experiencing love bombing rather than genuine courtship include excessive compliments that focus on how perfectly you match their needs, a sense that the intensity is slightly performative or theatrical, relationship milestones that arrive at unnatural speed, grand romantic gestures that seem designed for maximum impact, comments about how no one has ever understood them like you do, a subtle pressure to reciprocate their level of commitment immediately. Isolation from friends or family who express concern. The path to protection from these dynamics requires recognizing that intensity is not intimacy. Genuine connection builds gradually through consistent respect, shared experience, and mutual growth. It feels calm and safe rather than constantly exhilarating. Maintaining boundaries around relationship pacing. Healthy love respects the natural timing of true intimacy. Anyone who pushes for immediate deep commitment may be trying to bypass your natural discernment. Preserving your support network. Love bombers typically try to isolate you from people who might question the relationship. Maintaining these connections provides essential perspective, trusting the whisper of discomfort. Often, even while consciously enjoying the attention, something deeper in you may register that the intensity feels somehow off. Honor these subtle internal signals. For those who recognize they may have narcissistic tendencies and use love bombing as a strategy, there is a healing path, though it requires profound honesty. Facing the fear beneath the pattern. Love bombing often stems from terror of abandonment and a lack of stable sense of self. Learning to tolerate authentic connection, which includes the vulnerability of being seen as your imperfect real self rather than an idealized performance. Seeking specialized therapeutic help, as narcissistic patterns rarely resolve without professional intervention. As for Zara, recognition became the first step toward freedom. With her therapist's guidance, she began to see how the passionate beginning had been calculated to create dependency, not connection. The insights were painful, but clarity brought growing strength. When she ended the relationship 8 months after it began, James cycled through all the phases in rapid succession: worship, desperate declarations of love, criticism, accusations of emotional coldness, withdrawal, silent treatment, then renewed worship, promises of change, and grand gestures. This time, seeing the pattern clearly, Zara maintained her boundary. The withdrawal was painful. The intensity of love bombing creates real neurochemical bonds, but gradually, her system recalibrated to healthier forms of connection. A year later, when a charming new acquaintance showered her with adoration on their second date and suggested meeting his parents on their third, Zara recognized the familiar acceleration. Instead of feeling chosen, she felt warned. She declined the relationship with clarity rather than confusion. Remember, in authentic love, you are cherished but never worshipped. You are appreciated but never idealized. You are seen, not mirrored. True connection builds steadily on foundations of consistent respect, shared values, and mutual growth. Love bombing isn't romance, it's reconnaissance, gathering intelligence on your desires and vulnerabilities before the battle begins. The most loving thing you can do when facing such warfare disguised as worship is to quietly close the gates of your heart and redirect its precious resources toward those who honor rather than exploit its light.